The alien armada came in silent lines, like knives sliding out of shadows. Their ships were long and dark, built for killing. Their commanders spoke in quiet voices through tight beam channels that could not be heard by outsiders. "Humans are prey," one commander whispered. "Tonight, the hunt ends." In the center of the dead system hung a cold star that had already burned out. No heat, no light, only ash and broken rocks. There was one human ship in that darkness, a destroyer named Resolute. It glided with low power, lights off, a tired thing in a dead place. It looked alone, lost, and weak. The alien captains smiled the way predators smile. They closed a ring around the human ship and waited for the last order. Their fleets had choked many worlds. They had ended nations older than human memory. To them, this was only a small task with a small reward. But the ship did not run. It did not fire. It did not beg. It only waited, and the black silence settled over the system. Silence that felt heavy and wrong. Silence that made even hunters feel watched. A junior alien officer said, "Why is it still there?" "Because it is afraid," the commander answered. But his voice did not sound confident. On the Resolute, Commander Elena Ward stood on the bridge with her hands behind her back. Her face was calm and clean of fear. She was in her mid-30s, sharp-eyed, dark hair pulled tight, the steady kind of leader who never raised her voice unless needed. The crew around her moved carefully, whispering status and numbers. "Range?" she asked. "Outer pickets closing to 40,000 clicks," said Lieutenant Rafi Newer, the tactical officer. His fingers touched a flat display, but the screen showed almost nothing. They had dimmed it to hide their glow. "Any sign they have us painted?" Ward asked. "Not yet, ma'am. They are spreading jammers, trying to blind us." Ward nodded. "Let them think we are blind." She walked to the wide viewport, which showed only the faint outline of the dead star and the darker black shapes of rocks. A few specks of reflected light hung there like cold ghosts. The Resolute drifted among them with engines warm but quiet. It showed the posture of an animal that had given up. Ward leaned closer to the glass and spoke in a soft voice. "Everyone knows the story of hunters. Everyone forgets the story of bait." The crew did not look up. They had trained for this night, until the plan felt like a scar in their bones. Each person knew their small piece. Each person held it tight. In the briefing room a day earlier, Ward had stood in front of a floating model of the dead system, the dead star, the broken belt, the cold gas clouds, all of it mapped and labeled in thin blue lines. Her voice had been simple. "They think they will trap us here," she said. "We will let them try. We'll be the sheep that walks into the wolf den. But we will bring the dogs." The dogs were not on any model, and no alien spy had seen them. They were hidden things that did not shine, did not talk, did not even think much. They were patient. In the present, the alien ring tightened. "Cut our broadcast tone another 3 decibels, Ward said. "I want them to see a frightened ship with failing life support," said Rafi, dropping tone. "We now look like we are whispering for help, and nobody hears." Ward's mouth twitched. "Good." She turned to Ensign Piper Hale at navigation. "How is the drift?" "Perfect," Piper said. "We pass through shadow exactly when we need to. Their long-range optics will think we are damaged and spinning." "Our new friends? Silent and sleeping?" Piper said. "All 24. Wake them soon," Ward said. "But do not make a sound." Piper's fingers moved without noise. The lights on her console were covered with black cloth so they would not reflect. The alien commander gave his order. The ring began to close. Torpedo boats slid forward in pairs. Cruiser guns powered up. The trap was now a fist. Inside one of those boats, a soldier checked the safety on his rifle. He had hunted across 6 systems and had lived to tell the jokes. He looked at the image of the human ship and felt nothing but hunger. He sent a message to a friend. "Screamers," he wrote. "Humans scream like birds when the air goes out," the friend replied. "Record it." The soldier smiled. On the Resolute, Ward stood very still and felt the hum of the ship. It was an old hum, The destroyer had seen years of heavy work. It had brought people home who were supposed to die. Ward had served on it as a junior officer once. When she had taken command, she had put her hand on the ship's nameplate and whispered, "I will not waste you." Tonight she would keep. That promise, the comms officer, Petty Officer Lin, raised 2 fingers. That was the sign. The alien torpedo boats had reached the last safe range. Any nearer, and even a confused human ship would open fire. Ward nodded. "Let them taste hope," she said. "Let's make us look smaller." Dropping signature, Lin said. The Resolute dimmed again. Its heat sinks shivered and drank. Its engines cooled. It looked like something that had just given up. The alien commander hissed in delight. "Close," he ordered. Now, the torpedo boats raced in. The cruisers followed with their guns hot and ready to spit. Ward waited until her heart made the 4th slow beat. "Wake the dogs," she said. "Aye," Piper whispered. 20-4 small shapes opened their black eyes in the rock belt. They had been sleeping inside broken stones that looked like any other dead thing. They had been planted here days ago by a cargo tug that had faked an engine failure and limped away unnoticed. Now the shapes came alive and unfolded in silence. They were drones, no bigger than fighters, with skin that drank light and tongues that spoke only heat. Each of them faced outward, away from the Resolute, toward the tightening ring. Each of them saw the hot outlines of alien hulls. Each of them smiled the way machines smile, with ready weapons. "Targets assigned," Raffi said. 2 per cruiser. 1 for each torpedo boat. Standing by. Ward looked at the viewport. The alien ships were still invisible to human eyes, but she felt them. She could sense the tension in the bridge, the tight breath of her crew. It was as if 1,000 years of hunt and cave and fire had climbed up their spines all at once. "Not yet," she said. "Let them think they have us." The alien soldier in the torpedo boat licked his teeth. They had names for this part of the kill. The last step, the rush, the sweet moment. He prepared to lock his targeting beam on the human hull, then his sensor. Feed flickered. "What is that?" he asked the boat's pilot. "What?" the pilot said. He saw nothing. The feed cleared. The soldier leaned closer. He did not know that a small black drone was hanging in the shadow of a nearby rock, warm as stone, cold as fate. He did not know that it had already mapped the shape of his boat and had chosen the line that would cut the hull from nose to engine. In one hard bite, "Fire on my mark," the alien commander said. Ward watched the flicker of residual heat on her darkened screen. She lifted one finger and held it there. The crew stared at that finger. It was the only light in the room that mattered. "Mark," the alien commander said. At that exact second, Ward's finger bent. "Bite." She said the belt of rocks woke and spat fire. The 24 drones struck from behind and above and below. Their first bites cut the torpedo boats open like fruit. Their second bites swallowed cruisers' sensor domes and chewed their throat masts, turning their voices into choking gas. Invisible nets fell over engines. Heat-seeking teeth dug in and would not let go. The alien commander shouted, "Where? Who? How?" His screens went black, lit, then black again. He saw only his own fear. On the Resolute, Ward said, "Engines too full." Now, the destroyer did not look weak anymore. It opened its hidden panels and showed teeth of its own. Cannons slid forward like bright bones. Missiles rolled from under armored doors. The ship's heat surged, and for the first time in that dead system, there was a thing alive enough to be seen. Target their command holes and their jammers. Ward said, "Blind them more." "Firing," Raffi said. His voice stayed calm, but his hands were fast and sure. Light leaped across the gap and found alien steel. The shots were not big, but they were precise. The first volley cut the ties between the head of the fleet and its hands. The second volley broke the jammers that had been choking human eyes. Ring around the Resolute broke into pieces. Cruisers tried to turn and face the human destroyer. But the drones clung to their engine cones like leeches and pumped metal into them. Torpedo boats tried to run, but missiles that had been dead a moment ago woke from fake sleep and chased them down like wolves. The alien soldier who had waited for the sweet moment looked up and saw a bright shape coming. He raised his rifle because that was what soldiers do when they have nothing left. The shape tore his boat in half, and he had no more thoughts. On the Resolute, alarms called out damage that did not exist. Fake calls bled from the speakers, part of the mask they still wore. The ship's real damage was small, a scratch here and a dent there. "Keep the wounds screaming," Ward said. "Let the rest of them think we are still weak," Lynn smiled. We sound like a dying whale." "They're like dying," Ward said. "Give them what they like." One alien cruiser managed to free itself from a drone by rolling and slamming its torpedo bay into a rock. It came around with guns blazing, angry and bright. It fired 2 heavy salvos at the Resolute. "Brace," Raffi called. The shots came hard and hot. The Resolute's shields flared and cracked. The ship groaned. Fire burst from a deck vent and died as the safety doors shut. Ward did not move. "Turn favor," she said. Raffi sent for smart rounds from the belly battery. They curved left and right, and left again as if sniffing for prey. They struck the cruiser under its armor, in the place where the hull met the core, and the ship peeled open like a flower made of knives. Its light went out, and its pieces began to drift. "Ma'am," Piper said, "contacts on the far side are running." "Let them," Ward said. "Make sure they carry a story home." The drones, having fed well, reassigned themselves. Some kept chewing. Some moved to guard positions, hanging in the black like hunters on trees. The Resolute cut a path through the broken ring with steady thrust. It's like a swimmer parting dirty water. An alien captain, who had not spoken since the first bite, now found his voice. "Pull back," he shouted to the surviving ships. "Pull back!" And regroup with the reserve. "We are not ready. We are not ready." But his reserve was already dying. 3 larger shapes, once hidden in the outer dark, had burned their engines to charge in and finish the prey. They had rushed into a second minefield that had not looked like a minefield at all. The field had looked like dust and snow. The mines had been the size of fists and had held to the engine fields like burrs on a running animal. When the reserve ships lit their shields, the burrs burned through holes and made new doors. The ships slowed, stuttered, and gave up. From the bridge of the Resolute, Ward watched cold light flicker off cold metal. She never smiled, not even when the alien ring finally tore. She watched the numbers and the lines and the heat. She listened to the tone of her crew. Status. She asked. 8 enemy cruisers dead or disabled, Raffi said, for running. Many small craft gone. Our drones at 70% and still biting. We are low on 2 missile banks, but guns are fine. Casualties, Ward asked. 3. Wounded, Lynn said. All held by medbots. They will live. Ward let out a small breath that nobody heard. Good Piper cleared her throat. Ma'am, we have a clean lane to the outer dark. If we wish to leave, we can. Ward looked at the viewport and saw the shape of the dead star again. The system had been a grave long before they came. Tonight it had a new grave. We will not leave yet, Ward said. We will send a letter first. She stepped closer, too. The comms panel and pressed her thumb to a pad. Open a broadbeam channel, she said. Every band, every ear. Open, Lynn said. Ward spoke in a voice that carried. This is Commander Elena Ward of the human destroyer Resolute. We came here because you called us prey. We stayed because we wished to understand your hunt. We understand now. She paused. Long enough for the words to climb out of the system and into the listening nets of a dozen empires. When you ring a ship and call it food, she said, ask yourself a simple thing. Who has been watching you while you were watching us? Who mapped your engines, your habits, your jokes? Who placed knives in the dark months ago and waited for your pride to guide you there? She let the silence grow again, but now it was a different kind of silence. It was silence with teeth. We are not prey, Ward said. We hunt those who hunt us. Go home and speak the truth. She cut the channel. The alien ships that could still move fired one last angry volley and ran. The drones followed them only a little way, like dogs escorting thieves off a farm. Then they drifted back to their rocks and went to sleep again, black eyes closing. The bridge lights came up one notch. The crew let out long breaths. Someone laughed once, and then covered their mouth. Rafi looked at Ward. "Do we chase?" Asked. "No," Ward said. "A story runs faster than any ship. Let it do our work." They passed through the broken ring at steady speed. The hull of the Resolute brushed a cloud of tiny metal flakes that sparkled for an instant. It was like moving through slow snow. In the commander's ready room, Ward poured a small amount of water into a gray cup and lifted it to her lips. She stood alone for a moment and looked at the star map on the wall. Lines crossed lines, with small red marks where human ships had been lost in the last year. She touched one mark with her finger, then another, then a third. Her jaw tightened, then softened. Lynn's voice came through the wall speaker. "I'm long-range wideband. Net confirms your broadcast. It is being repeated by everyone." "Good," Ward said. "Ward, all of it. Send it to fleet." "Already done?" Piper's voice came next. "We also pick up chatter from the alien reserve elements. It's confused, angry, afraid. It should be," Ward said. She put the cup down without drinking. She returned to the bridge and stood with her crew. Inside the dead star gave nothing, but something bright had been born in that darkness and was rising from it. It was not light, but it traveled like light, fast, straight, and unstoppable. It was rumor. It was story. It was fear with a human face. In a far embassy, on a far world. 2 alien aides replayed the human broadcast again and again. One said they were waiting. The other said they were hunting. In a training hall on another world, a young officer drew a circle on a board and then placed a tiny blue dot in the middle. "See," he told his class, "this is how you do it. You make them think they own you. Then you own them." In a smoky cantina by a shipyard, an old smuggler lifted his drink and said, "There is a new question in the black." And in many halls of power, leaders who used to laugh at the idea of human strength now watched the dead star footage with cold eyes. Back on the Resolute, the crew gathered in the mess and spoke in low voices. They had done their jobs, and they were proud, but they knew what this meant. Predators do not like to lose. Predators come back with friends. Ward walked in, and the room grew quiet. She did not like speeches after fights, but she knew her people needed one thing from her now. "Eat," she said simply. "Sleep. Fix your gear. The next hunt will not be gentle." A few people smiled, a few nodded. The mood shifted from high to steady. That was what she wanted. Later, Ward stood once more at the dark viewport and looked out into the starless hole. She thought of all the plans and side plans that had brought them here, the tug that had planted the drones, the engineers who had built heat-seeking teeth out of scrap limits, the young navigator who had calculated the drift through shadow to show just enough panic. None of it was luck. All of it was work, hope, and a will that would not bend. Rafi came up beside her. "The galaxy will talk," he said. "It will murmur," Ward said. "It will argue. It will send spies. It will send fleets. It will tell itself, we are only clever once. And when they come again, then we will be clever again," Ward said. And again, and again. Her reflection looked back, tired, alert, alive. "Set course for the rendezvous point," she said. "We will collect our sleepers later. They have earned their rest." "Aye, Commander," Rafi said. The Resolute turned with a soft push and slid into the dark. The dead star fell behind them like a forgotten word. Messages ran ahead of them, into ports and palaces, into mess halls and war rooms, into the corners where secrets whisper each other to life. The message carried the taste of iron and smoke. It told a short story in short words. A lone human ship went into a trap. It did not run. It waited. The trap closed. The trap broke. The hunters bled. By the time the Resolute reached its rendezvous, the first echoes had already reached the places that mattered. In a cold council chamber, where the rulers of 100 worlds met by voice and shadow, someone asked in low tone, "Who hunts who?" No one answered. No one needed to dot out in the black, drifting alone among the rocks. A small drone turned once in its sleep and blinked the faintest light. It had no heart to swell with pride, but if it had, it would have swelled. On the bridge of the Resolute, Elena Ward leaned on the back of her chair and watched her crew work. Their movements were quiet and sure. Their faces glowed with the steady light of the bridge. There was nothing grand in those faces, nothing that would go on a poster in a recruiting station. But there was something larger, something stronger. It was a simple promise they had made to each other and to all their kind. We will not be prey. The dead system fell away, and the ship moved on. The hunt had started again, but this time the roles were different, and the galaxy knew it. The alien fleet had been shattered. The rumor had been born. And in every corner where words have teeth, the murmur rose and joined itself into a single, sharp question that did not need a mouth to speak. Who hunts who? The galaxy remembered the dead star, remembered the silence, the ambush, and how silence became fear. One lone human destroyer had turned a perfect trap into a graveyard. Now whispers spread faster than light. Humans are prey no more. They are hunters. They are predators in the shadows. 3 weeks later, in the deep corridors of the Veynar War Council, alien captains argued in secret. Their fleet had lost 12 cruisers, countless smaller craft, and their pride. The surviving officers sat in a chamber carved from volcanic stone, heat rising from glowing cracks on the floor. They tricked us, one commander hissed, his mandibles clacking. They planted machines in the rocks. We never saw them. They cannot repeat it, another sneered. One trick only. Clever prey makes one lucky strike. Then the wolves finished the job. But a third captain leaned forward, voice low. His scales reflected the firelight. Then tell me this. Why do my supply depots vanish? Why do fuel tanks explode in silence? Why do my crews disappear from sealed stations? The chamber quieted. None had an answer, because out in the void, far from counsels and excuses, humans were moving unseen. Ships no bigger than shadows slid. Through alien borders, special teams in black armor walked where no alarms rang. Tools shaped like knives cut through bulkheads, and no cameras ever caught them leaving. Predators had begun to stalk the hunters. Commander Elena Ward sat alone in her ready room aboard the Resolute. Her fingers traced the latest report glowing on her screen. A freighter carrying weapons to the Veynar fleet had vanished. Not destroyed, not captured, vanished. Its escorts swore they had watched it warp into safety, and then it simply never arrived. Ward's lips curved slightly. She knew the truth. The freighter had been escorted by a small black Corvette built in secret human yards. Its crew had hacked the freighter's drives, pulled it into a false jump corridor, and stripped it clean. The cargo now filled hidden human stations. The freighter's hull floated as slag in a nameless gas cloud. Predators in the shadows. The galaxy thought humanity had only a handful of warships. But Ward knew better. Her people had learned long ago that numbers were not everything. A blade in the dark, well placed, could topple an army. She leaned back, eyes on the star map. Red marks spread across Italian supply lanes, fuel depots, staging posts. She touched them one by one. Cut the claws, she whispered. Starve the beast. In the Veynar barracks on the moon of Karas, soldiers whispered to each other. At night, they were seasoned killers, veterans of campaigns where entire cities had been erased. But now they whispered like children. My brother served in the 4th Fleet, one muttered. He sent me a message before they left.
After that.
Ambush? Nothing. Not even wreckage returned. Another leaned closer. The humans come inside our camps. I swear I saw a shadow walk past the gates, though the guards stood watch. It left no trace. The older veteran spat, but his eyes betrayed fear. You imagine things, humans are weak. But no one in the room believed him, because last week, a Veynar general had been found dead in his own command tent. No alarms had sounded. His guards were alive and swore they saw no intruder. Yet on the table before him lay a human knife, ancient steel, smeared with his blood. On the bridge of the Resolute, Ward gathered her officers. The lights were dim, the air tense. "They call us lucky," she said, voice steady. "They think the dead star was chance, and let us show them it was only the beginning." A holomap bloomed above the table, showing the Veynar's main supply route through the Pale Marches Nebula. "This is their artery," Ward continued. "It feeds their fleets. Without it, they starve. We will not attack their fleets head-on. We will take their blood away, one drop at a time." Lieutenant Rafi leaned forward, eyes sharp. "And how do we strike without revealing ourselves?" Ward touched the map. The nebula shimmered, filled with bright dust clouds. Here the nebula blinds long-range scans, perfect for ghosts. The plan was simple, but deadly. Small human. Strike ships would slip into the nebula, strike convoys vanish, and leave wreckage floating. Each attack would be different, sometimes explosions, sometimes stolen cargo, sometimes crews that simply vanished. No pattern, no weakness, only fear. The first convoy entered the Pale Marches 2 days later. 6 freighters carrying weapons, fuel, and food. 3 destroyers as escort. They did not know the Resolute already waited in the dust. Ward gave no speeches. She simply raised one hand and lowered it. From the shadows, 3 black corvettes slid forward. They did not fire weapons. Instead, they unleashed swarms of microdrones no larger than fists. These drones attached themselves to freighters, gnawed through engines, and injected false signals into control systems. Within minutes, the convoy tore itself apart. One freighter spun out of control and slammed into another, detonating both in a blinding explosion. A third drifted helpless, its engines offline. The escorts fired wildly into the dust, hitting nothing. The Resolute struck only once one clean beam that sliced the lead destroyer in half. Then it vanished again, hiding in the storm. By the time the dust cleared, the convoy was gone. No trace. The news spread like fire. Alien networks broadcast frantic reports. Convoys missing. Commanders dead. Armies starving, one alien journalist asked on open channel, "If humans are prey, why do our fleets bleed in silence?" In the Council of Civilizations, leaders shouted at each other. Some demanded war, others whispered about peace. All feared the same thing, that humans had become something the galaxy did not understand, and in the hidden corners where soldiers drank and spies traded secrets, one phrase repeated again and again: "Who hunts who?" One night, on a distant mining world under alien control, a massive explosion ripped through the central refinery. Panic spread. When the smoke cleared, guards found words carved into the blackened walls. Not written in alien script. Written in human letters: "We see you." The miners stared at the message and trembled. Back aboard the Resolute, Ward stood at the viewport. Her crew celebrated quietly in the mess, but she remained still. "Ma'am," Rafi said, approaching the galaxy is talking. "They are calling us predators now." Ward's eyes stayed on the stars. Her face was calm, but her voice was cold. "No. We are not predators. We are survivors. We hunt only because they call us prey." She turned, her gaze sharp as steel. "And when prey learns to hunt, the hunter should be afraid." Outside the window, the Pale Marches Nebula glowed faintly, hiding the wrecks of the convoy. The galaxy would hear of it soon. When they did, the question would echo louder than ever: who hunts who? The Veynar Empire was furious. 2 fleets shattered, convoys gone, generals murdered in silence. The council demanded blood in the dark. Chamber of Kara's Prime, High Warlord Shurin struck his claws against stone. Sparks jumped from the black floor. Around him, lesser captains bowed their heads. "Humans," Shurin growled. "Think shadows make them strong. They are insects hiding under rocks. We will smoke them out. We will crush them in open space, where shadows cannot help them." The captains nodded. The 300 warships were assigned to the hunt. Carriers, destroyers, and armored cruisers filled the void like a storm of knives, but they did not know. They did not see the hand behind the curtain. They did not see the bait already waiting. On the destroyer Resolute, Commander Elena Ward studied a star map filled with thin red lines. Her officers gathered around the table, their faces tense. "They want revenge," Ward said quietly. "We will give them a target." Lieutenant Rafi frowned. "A target." Ward tapped a blinking blue icon. It showed a human freighter, slow and alone, moving through a quiet trade lane near the Harken Rift. "They will think it is prey," Ward explained. "One freighter limping, unguarded. They will rush at it with all their pride. And when they do," her hands spread across the map. Hidden mines, cloaked drones, and ships lying in wait lit up like tiny sparks. We closed the trap. The room fell silent. The officers understood. They were not running from the storm. They were building one. The freighter. Artemis drifted across the rift like a wounded bird. Its engines sputtered, leaking faint trails of heat. Its distress beacon flickered weakly, calling for help. No one answered. Alien scouts spotted it within hours. Their laughter echoed across the combs. "Look," one said. "Prey in the open. Call." The fleet, another replied. "Tonight the hunt ends." They never wondered why the freighter did not change course. They never asked why its distress beacon pulsed on every frequency, loud and clear. To predators, a wounded thing was only food. 300 ships thundered into the rift. Their shadows blocked out the stars. Cruisers spread wide, destroyers moved in packs, carriers released fighter swarms. High Warlord Shuren stood on the bridge of his flagship, a massive vessel plated in black armor. He watched the small human freighter and sneered. "Pathetic." He said, "This is what frightened our captains. A broken bird? Destroy it." But before his order reached the fleet, something strange happened. The freighter did not run. The freighter turned toward them. Its engines glowed bright, and the hunters felt the first sting of fear. From the dark edge of the rift, minds woke.
Ow!
They had been drifting like dust for weeks, disguised as broken rocks. They flared to life and hurled spears of plasma into the alien vanguard. Half a dozen destroyers vanished in white fire. Before the shock faded, cloaked drones burst from the rift's shadows. They swarmed across alien formations, spitting fire and chewing engines apart, and then the Resolute appeared. Guns blazing, cutting through the dark like a wolf among blind sheep. Ward's voice rang across her bridge. "Hit their pride first. Cut the head, the body falls." Her crew obeyed.
Fight!
Precise volleys ripped into alien command ships. Communications choked. Orders failed. The vast fleet staggered. On the alien flagship, Shuren roared in rage. "Where are they coming from?" "Number." Answers came. His fleet's eyes were blinded by false signals. Dozens of ghost readings filled their sensors. Phantom ships, phantom weapons. They fired blindly into the dark and hit only each other. Meanwhile, human drones slipped behind them, planting bombs on carriers, cutting through supply craft. Fighters panicked as their command signals vanished. Scattering like startled birds, the hunters were now prey in their own cage. The freighter, Artemis the bait, suddenly split apart. Its wreckage opened like a flower. Panels unfolded, revealing missile racks hidden in its hull. The small, weak ship launched a storm of warheads into the enemy formation. Tearing through cruisers unprepared for the strike, alien voices screamed across open channels. "They are everywhere. They were waiting for us. Nothing is safe." Trent slammed his claws against the console until they cracked. "No," he roared. "We are the predators. Fight them." But his words were swallowed by fire. On the bridge of the Resolute, smoke drifted from shattered panels, but Ward's face was calm. She gave her orders in steady tones, guiding her crew like a surgeon. Shift formation, push them toward the mines, herd them. Make them fight themselves. Bit by bit, the vast alien armada collapsed. Their numbers turned against them. Ships collided as they fled. Wounded vessels became obstacles. Panic grew faster than orders. Ward leaned forward, eyes cold. This is what they never understood. A hunter who thinks only of the kill never watches for the snare. Hours later, silence fell over the rift. Burning wrecks drifted among broken rocks. The once mighty alien fleet was shattered, over 200 ships gone. Survivors fled without order, scattering into the void. The Resolute floated among the wreckage, its hull scarred but unbroken. Ward stood at the viewport watching the flames die. "Report," she said. "Minimal damage, Commander," Rafi replied. "Enemy loss is catastrophic. Our drones are returning." Ward nodded slowly. "Good. Let them run. Let them tell the story." Across the galaxy, news spread faster than light. The Veynar Empire had unleashed its might, and still it had been broken. The tale grew with every retelling. They had gone to hunt humans. Instead, they had been hunted in smoky bars, in command halls, in marketplaces, the same words repeated. Again and again, whispered in awe and fear. Who hunts who? The warlord's flagship cut through the black like a floating mountain of steel and rage. Its hull was painted in the scars of 100 campaigns, every beam of armor layered from conquered worlds. Inside, High Warlord Shiroth stood tall, claws flexing, voice dripping venom. "I have hunted species older than stars. I have turned suns into tombs. And now I will mount a human skull above my throne." His officers roared in support. Drums pounded across the ship's war halls, a rhythm of death the Veynar used before every slaughter. But far away, aboard the human destroyer Resolute, Commander Elena Ward listened to the intercepted boast. She did not laugh. She did not sneer. She only narrowed her eyes at the star map glowing in the darkened command deck, because the warlord was not chasing a weak freighter this time. He was driving his vast fleet toward a dying sun, a star so unstable it breathed firestorms that could melt even the strongest hull. And that was exactly what Ward wanted. "Set course for the Singularity Edge," she ordered. "We'll drag them into the storm." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. To fight near a collapsing star was suicide. But Elena Ward's voice carried the calm of a hunter who had already chosen the ground for the kill. The Veynar thought they had the humans where they wanted them. They thought the trap belonged to them. But this time the trap was not made of ships or mines. This time the trap was a star itself. The question burned louder in the dark. Who hunts who? Shiroth was unlike the other Veynar commanders. His skull crest was carved with trophies from fallen enemies, each mark burned with acid to show his victories. He was the one who had broken the Shirai, who had eaten the hearts of the Mezzer kings. His people called him the ever-hungry he. Watched the humans with a hunger that was not only for blood, it was for reputation. The Veynar had mocked humanity as prey for generations. To kill the Resolute would heal their pride. "Drive them to the star," Shiroth ordered. "Their little tricks will not save them when the fires swallow their metal shell." The fleet obeyed. Engines roared. Gravity wells shifted. Slowly, the trap began to squeeze the humans toward the collapsing sun at the system's heart. But something in the readings was wrong. The star pulsed with unnatural rhythm. It's not the steady death rattle of a collapsing sun, but something sharper, more violent. Veynar sensors scrambled, their readings clouded by bursts of radiation. "Commander," one of Shiroth's advisors said nervously, "the star. It is unstable. It may collapse at any moment." "Perfect," Shiroth growled. "The humans will burn first." But far away, the Resolute moved with calm precision, as if the storm belonged to them. On the bridge, Elena Ward stood like a statue. The heat of the star shimmered across the viewport. Her crew looked at her, waiting. Chief Engineer O'Reilly wiped sweat from his brow. "Ma'am, the flux is tearing at our shields. If we get closer, the ship will start to cook." Ward nodded. "Yes, that's why we'll be closer than them." The crew exchanged looks. Ward stepped forward, pointing at the simulation flickering in the hala. It showed the unstable star. Deep inside its core, massive plasma rivers twisted and folded on themselves. "During training, I studied collapse models," she said. "This star has a cycle. When it breathes in, it pulls with a gravity surge. When it breathes out, it spits radiation. If we time it right, we ride the out-breath. If they follow, they ride the in-breath." And then her voice lowered, sharp as a blade. They get dragged where no hunter survives. The crew shivered, but nodded. They trusted her. Humanity had always been forced to survive on hostile ground. This was no different. The Resolute dived. Its engines screamed as it cut through the gas clouds, pulling closer to the trembling star. Plasma arcs cracked like lightning across the hull. Shields flickered, groaned, but held. Behind them, the Veynar armada followed, furious and blind. The predators gave chase, their eyes fixed on the glowing trail left by the human ship. In the alien flagship, Shiroth's advisors shouted warnings. The radiation is climbing. The star is entering collapse. Do you fear heat? Roared. Do you fear light? The prey hides in shadow. Here it has no refuge. Press on. The fleet obeyed, but as they pressed closer, the first wave of the star's outbreath struck. A solar storm rolled across the rift, a wall of white fire. Human shields bent and groaned, but the Resolute was already aligned, already braced. It rode the storm like a ship riding a wave. The alien cruisers were not ready. Radiation cut through their hulls, engines flickered, then died. Some ships spun out of formation, colliding with others. The trap broke itself. Targets exposed, Rafi said, his voice tight. Ward lifted her hand, eyes never leaving the view. Mark. The Resolute's cannons opened fire. Plasma lances cut into crippled cruisers. Missiles screamed through the storm, guided by human math that could read the sun's rhythm. Explosions bloomed like flowers of fire. Drones woke from the dust once again. They darted into the chaos, slipping between flares, planting charges on carrier hulls. One by one, the predators lost their fangs. On the surface of a command deck, Shiroth slammed his fist against the rail. How do they do this? They knew the cycle, his science officer cried. He timed it. They chose this star. Shiroth froze. His mandibles twitched. For the first time, the ever-hungry felt something colder than space pressing against him. The Veynar flagship stood defiant in the storm. Its massive shields glowed white, its guns firing blindly into the dust. Shurin walked across the bridge with a predator's grace, his claws dripping with his own blood from his shattered hand. He opened the fleet-wide channel. His voice boomed across the broken formation. Stand. We are the hunters. They are only clever animals. Hold the line and crush them. But his words reached ships that were already burning. His fleet heard him and knew he lied. Ward listened to the broadcast on the Resolute. She leaned closer to the comms mic. You think you are the hunter, she said, her voice cold. But you are the prey. You chased us into the fire. You followed the bait. Now you burn. Her eyes narrowed. End the flagship. Rafi's hands danced across the console. The Resolute fired a spread of hypervelocity rounds. They curved through the storm, guided by math and instinct. They struck the Veynar flagship's shield in 3 places at once. The shield cracked like ice. The second volley followed, drove straight through the wound, piercing into the reactor. The flagship split open in silence. No sound, only light, brighter than any weapon. The warlord's roar cut across the comms one last time. They are not prey. Then the light swallowed his ship whole. The storm faded. The star shuddered once, then grew still again, as if sated by the feast. The Resolute limped out of the rift, its drones retreating behind it. Many were gone, melted in the storm, but enough returned to fight again. On the bridge the crew watched the wreckage fall into the dead sun's pole. The Predator fleet was no more. Status? Ward asked. Damage minimal, O'Reilly said. Engines hot but stable. Drones at 40% strength. We can fight again. Ward nodded. She touched the nameplate of her ship again. The word Resolute gleaming faintly. You kept us alive, she whispered. Across the galaxy, silence turned into whispers. On the council world of Aratun, alien ministers stared at the recordings. One muttered, their ship dived into a dying star. We would never dare. Yet they came out alive. On the smuggler docks of Veynar space, a broken pilot returned, his eyes wide and hollow. We chased them, he whispered. We thought they ran, but they were waiting. They watched us die. on the ice markets of the Zell Dominion traders. Huddled in fear, "If humans are hunters," one said, "what are we?" The word spread. Across 1,000 systems, the question was whispered, then shouted, then feared, who hunts who? On the Resolute, the coms lit up. A message flickered across the screen, sent not from the Veynar, not from the Council, but from deep in the abyss beyond mapped space. The voice was low, ancient, and cold. "We have watched your hunt. We are coming." The bridge fell silent. For the first time since the war began, even Elena Ward's hands froze above the console. The predators were not done. But neither was humanity. Ward's eyes narrowed, steel bright against the darkness. "Then let them come," she whispered. The screen went black. The stars outside were silent. Somewhere in that silence, something vast moved. The galaxy's whispers grew louder, sharper, heavier, until they became a single, thunderous question that echoed across every world and every council chamber. Who hunts who? The minds of Karas were supposed to be silent. The tunnels stretched for kilometers, carved into black stone, filled with workers and soldiers who had never feared the dark. The Veynar were the hunters of the galaxy. The believed shadows belonged to them. But on this night, the shadows whispered. Patrol of 6 alien soldiers marched through the cavern, their weapons glowing faintly blue. The lead soldier stopped suddenly. He swore he had heard something, a scrape of metal, a breath not his own. He turned, scanning with his visor. Nothing, only dripping water and the smell of rot. "Keep moving," their captain hissed. "Humans are dead or running. They cannot reach this place." Yet as the patrol advanced deeper into the mine, one soldier at the rear felt a hand brush against his shoulder. Spun. His visor caught only blackness. He fired wildly into the dark. Plasma. Bolts lit up the walls. The others cursed at him. Then the rear soldier was gone. His rifle clattered to the ground, smoking. The patrol froze. Something had taken him in silence. No alarms, no sound but the drip, drip, drip of water on stone, and in the shadows behind them, unseen eyes watched. The hunters were being hunted. News of the destruction at the rift had shaken the Empire, but it was the whispers from occupied worlds that truly spread fear. Supply depots erupted without warning. Whole convoys went missing. Commanders were found dead with steel knives in their chests, human knives, crude and old, left like calling cards. On the council world, ministers argued louder than ever. "They cannot be everywhere at once," one said. "Then explain how they strike in 10 systems at once." Another hissed. "The humans are not powerful," a third insisted. "They are deceitful. They hide in darkness and strike from behind. It is not the way of hunters." A voice from the chamber's shadows interrupted. "Or perhaps it is the way of the deadliest hunters of all." The ministers fell into silence. No one wanted to admit what was already being whispered across the stars, that humans had become the fear in the dark. On Illyria, the survivors of the swarm huddled in ruined cities. Their towers had fallen. Their skies were black with ash. Commander Jacob Reed led his squad through shattered streets. His boots crunched over glass and bones. By his side walked Sergeant Torres, her rifle ready, her jaw set. Behind them, a band of Illyrian survivors carried scavenged, weapons-curved blades, crude rifles, tools turned into spears. "We fight," Torres said quietly, looking at the aliens. "But do they even know what we are fighting for?" "We'll learn," Reed said. "We fight for each other. That is enough." A faint sound echoed through the ruins. The Illyrians froze. From the shadows of a broken tower, a swarm creature dragged itself forward. Its carapace cracked and glowing with sickly green light. It hissed, and more shapes moved behind it. Reed raised his rifle. "Positions. Remember what Ward said? Strike their nodes, not their shells." The humans opened fire with calm precision. Plasma bolts cut through weak points in the creatures' bodies. Lyrians followed, emboldened by the humans' steady hands. The swarm screamed, but it was not the scream of triumph. It was the scream of prey. Back aboard the Resolute, Elena Ward monitored every strike team on Illyria's surface. The feeds flickered with static as the planet's atmosphere boiled under the swarm's toxins. Team Beta. Hold your line, Ward ordered calmly. We are watching. You are not alone. On the screen, Jacob Reed looked up, sweat streaking his dust-covered face. His voice crackled through the coms. Copy that, Commander. We'll hold. Da-da-da. But the swarm is learning out there. Faster now. Smarter? Ward's jaw tightened. Then so are we. She turned to O'Reilly. Bring the orbital strikes online, no mistakes. Every blast must hit their spawns. O'Reilly gave a grim nod. Aye, ma'am. Oh. The old girl will sing loud. Tonight? The Resolute groaned as power surged through its guns in the ruins above Illyria. Veynar detachment monitored the human strike teams. Their leader, Captain Jorak, crouched over a console, watching feeds of his soldiers being cut down by humans. And Illyrian rebels? They should be dead, one of his officers whispered. Look at them. They move like shadows. Jorak snarled. They're still flesh. They will bleed. Prepare the hunters. Surround them. But even as he spoke, the feed flickered. For one heartbeat, the screen filled with static. When it cleared, the soldiers on the ground were gone. Only their rifles remained, dropped and cooling. The officer trembled. Where are they? Jorak stared at the empty street. His claws twitched. They are not prey, he muttered. Repeating the warlord's final words, Reed's team pushed deeper into the city with the Illyrians. They carried bundles of Elysian needlegrass, the strange glowing plants that poisoned the swarms spawning. Grounds? Every building was a tomb. Every street was a trap. They reached the central hive mound. It's a massive tower of living flesh and chitin wrapped around the ruins of a palace. Green ichor dripped from its sides. The ground shook with the swarms. Heartbeat Reed raised his hand. This is it. We plant the seeds here. Humanity will give the swarm a taste of its own medicine. As the team moved, the swarm descended in waves. Claws scraped stone. Wings beat the air. Screeches filled the ruins. The humans stood shoulder to shoulder with the Illyrians, rifles blazing, blades cutting. They moved with precision, each strike aimed at weak points, each step placed with purpose. Cover the planters. Reed shouted. Torres dragged a sack of needlegrass and jammed it into a glowing wound in the hive. The plant's fronds curled, inward, feeding on alien flesh. The mound shuddered, a deep rumble shaking the city. The swarm screamed louder. On the other side of the galaxy, the Council of Civilizations watched the live feed. The Illyrian envoy wept at the sight of their burning cities. But their eyes shone with something new. Hope. They are fighting back, one counselor whispered. With humans, another said, voice sharp. Do you not see? The prey has teeth. An elder rose, voice shaking. If humans can hunt the swarm, what will stop them from hunting us? The chamber erupted into chaos. Some shouted for alliance, others for war, and above Illyria, the Resolute moved like a shadow. Raining fire upon the swarm, on the ground, the fight grew desperate. The swarm pressed from all sides. Their claws tore walls apart. Their shrieks shook the air. Reed fought with everything he had, his rifle glowing red-hot, his voice raw from shouting orders. The Illyrians, once broken, now fought like demons, inspired by the humans' refusal to fall back. Hold the line, Reed roared. We are not prey. The final sack of needlegrass was carried forward by a young Illyrian, her face smeared with ash. She ran through fire and claws, reached the hive's heart, and plunged the glowing stalks deep into its flesh. The hive screamed, a sound that shook the stars. Its flesh blackened, crumbled, and collapsed inward. The swarm faltered, their link broken, their rage dissolving into panic. Above, the Resolute unleashed its final volley. Plasma lances struck the hive as it cracked apart. A column of fire rose into the sky, tearing through the ash clouds. The swarm was broken. The battle ended. But the silence that followed was heavier than victory. On the bridge, Ward watched the flames fade. Her crew cheered, but she remained still. Ma'am, Lynn said, voice soft, the Illyrians are sending messages across the galaxy. They call us liberators. Ward nodded slowly. Let them speak. Let them tell their story. Raffi looked at her, and the Veynar. What will they say? Ward's eyes narrowed. They will say what their warlord said before he died. They are not hunters. That humans hunt them. Far away, in the ruins of the council chamber, alien voices clashed again. Some cried out in fear, some in anger, some in awe. But in the silence between their words, the same question rose louder than before. Echoing across every world, every fleet, every shadow of the galaxy, who hunts who? The end of the dark beyond mapped space, the ancient voice whispered once more. We are coming. Ward heard it on her comes, faint and cold. Her face remained calm, but her eyes burned like the star they had just survived. The hunt is not over, she whispered. It has only begun. The galaxy had seen wars before. They had seen fleets clash, planets burn, and empires fall. But never had they seen prey led, all predators into slaughter now. The Veynar were done playing games. The largest gathering of warships in a century, oiled out of hyperspace near the edges of the ecliptic reach. 300 ships, bristling with plasma lances, carriers releasing swarms of fighters, destroyers howling war songs through every channel. This time, warlord, Shiroth's successor roared, we feast on human bones. Every alien commander agreed. They told themselves the humans were cunning but weak. They told themselves the Shadow Fleet could not stand against this. They told themselves the hunters were still in control. But as the massive armada thundered, forward a question whispered in the void. It was not asked by humans. It was asked by the predators themselves. What if we are walking into another trap? No one dared to answer. Commander Elena Ward stood at the center of her bridge, her uniform, sharp but dark with soot from old battles. The crew was silent around her, waiting for her words. On the holomap, a Veynar fleet appeared as a storm of red points, moving straight into the Pale Marches Nebula. The nebula was a graveyard of shattered moons and lightning storms that twisted. Light itself. No empire ever fought here. Too dangerous. Too unstable. Ward traced the lines of dust storms and plasma surges with her finger. They believe we are fleeing, she said, voice calm. They will follow. They will not see what waits inside. Lieutenant Raffi's eyes narrowed. The mines again? More than mines, Ward said. We learned from Dymas. We learned. From Illyria, tonight we use the storm itself. The nebula is alive. It breathes. It eats. We will feed it. The crew stiffened. The Resolute was already scarred from the last battle. To dive deeper into the storm was madness. But Ward's voice was steady, and her eyes were steel. Prepare the net, she ordered. The Veynar fleet advanced with confidence. Their sensors flickered in the storm. But their numbers gave them strength. On the bridge of the new flagship, Commander Kareth, chosen successor to Shiroth, sat in a throne of black iron. His crest glittered with acid-burned trophies. He bared his teeth. They cannot hide in this storm forever, Kareth growled. We will drown them in plasma. We will burn their shadows away. His first officer hesitated. Warlord, the storm is unstable. Our shields strain already. Kareth's claws scraped metal. Do you fear fire? Do you forget what we are? We are hunters. They are prey. And tonight, the feast is ours. The fleet roared in unison, drums shaking their ships. Thousands of warriors prepared for slaughter, but as the predators hunted, the humans guided them deeper and deeper, step by step, towards something far worse than they could imagine. Hidden deep in the swirling nebula, the Resolute's drones clung. 2 drifting rocks and shattered moon fragments, their black holes blended into the void. Each drone carried a warhead human-made, but seeded with Elysian needlegrass spores, harvested from the ruins of Illyria. The spores were alive. They thrived on heat and radiation. They ate energy like food. Ward studied the rhythm of the nebulas, breathing the pulse of the unstable star at its heart. Plasma rivers surged in cycles, dragging debris inward, then hurling it outward again. We set the mines on the breath in, Ward said softly. We ride the breath out. It's the predators. Will follow us into the mouth of the storm. When it closes, they will not escape. Her crew said nothing, but she could feel their trust. Humanity had always survived by reading the land, the sea, the storm. Space was no different. The Veynar fleet surged forward, following the false signals left by the Resolute. Their fighters spread wide, seeking the human destroyer. Their cruisers fired into the dark, plasma blasts lighting the nebula. Like silent lightning, then the drones woke. They released their spores into the storm. The Elysian plants, hungry for energy, clung to the plasma streams and drank deep. The storms bent unnaturally, drawn toward the alien engines. One cruiser's shield failed. Plasma fire licked across its hull, eating through armor, boiling metal into gas. The ship screamed as it cracked open ambush. A Veynar captain cried, but there was no enemy ship firing. Only the storm itself. The swarm of fighters panicked, engines flaring bright. The more power they fed, the hungrier the needlegrass spores became. Green fire spread across their hulls like mold on dead flesh. Pilots screamed as their cockpits melted. On the flagship, Kareth stood, rage filling his voice. Form ranks. Burn the storm away, his fleet obeyed, firing plasma bursts in all directions. But every shot only fed the storm. Radiation waves bent and rolled, crashing into their own ships. From the shadows, the Resolute emerged, its guns glowing. Now, Ward said. Plasma lances stabbed outward, slicing into the chaos. Drones darted like sharks, their warheads slamming into crippled ships. The Veynar were drowning in fire. Humanity was pushing them deeper. Kareth slammed his claws into the command rail, splitting steel. He opened a fleet-wide channel, his voice a storm of rage. Fight them. They are nothing but vermin. You are predators. Kill them. But his own captains were silent. They watched their ships melt, their crews scream, their engines die. They remembered Shiroth's last words. They are not prey. And still, the humans fought with calm precision. On the Resolute, Ward stood firm. Shift the net, she ordered. Tighten the noose. Leave them no escape. Her crew obeyed. The drones shifted position, guiding the enemy deeper into the storm. The Veynar fleet was no longer hunting. It was being herded. The star pulsed again. Its surface boiled. Ward's eyes were steady. Brace, breath incoming. A wall of light and plasma erupted from the star. The Resolute rode the wave, shields groaning but holding. The drones clung to rocks and survived in shadow. The Veynar fleet, caught in the surge, burned. Hundreds of ships twisted as plasma storms tore through them. Carriers split open, spilling fighters into the fire. Cruisers melted into slag. The storm devoured them. The predators had walked into the mouth of something older and hungrier than themselves. For the first time in millennia, the galaxy's hunters screamed like prey. When the storm faded, the pale marshes were filled with wreckage. Blackened hulls drifted into the dead sun's gravity. The Resolute floated among them, scarred but alive. Status, Ward said calmly. Minimal damage, O'Reilly answered. Shields holding, engine stable. We can keep going. Raffi turned. To her eyes sharp, it was 200 ships gone in hours. Ward nodded slowly, and the rest will carry the story home. She looked at her crew. The galaxy needs to know we do not run. We hunt, we strike, we survive. The crew nodded. They understood. Humanity had always been hunted. Tonight they had turned the hunt around. On the council world, silence reigned. The Veynar delegation sat broken, their eyes empty. They promised us victory, one minister whispered. They promised humans were prey. They were wrong, another said. The hunters were hunted. Across trade hubs, markets, and military stations, the story spread again, not in whispers this time, but in voices filled with fear and awe. They used the storm itself as a weapon. They fed the star our fleets. They turned our hunt into their feast. The galaxy began to understand. Humans were not simply fighters. They were patient. They were cunning. They were dangerous. That night aboard the Resolute, Elena Ward sat in her quarters. The lights were low. She replayed the last message of Warlord Shiroth, the roar before his ship burned. They are not prey. The words echoed in the small room. Her comes pad buzzed. Message not from the Veynar, not from the Council, from far beyond the known stars. The voice was not loud. It was quiet, too quiet. We have tasted your hunt. You are not prey. Are not predator. You are something worse. We are coming. Ward sat in silence. The weight of the words pressed down on her. She looked at the star map on her wall. The galaxy was already trembling. Now something older, something hidden, was moving. Ward whispered only for words, her voice like steel on stone. We'll be ready. The council chamber was built to impress and to intimidate. It was a cathedral of stars, its walls transparent, showing the galaxy as if it were painted on black glass. Hundreds of alien delegates sat in tiered circles, their robes glittering with gemstones, their voices sharp and layered in a dozen languages. The air buzzed with tension, with fear, with something close to panic. For the first time in living memory, the great predator races of the galaxy had gathered not to boast, but to argue over humans. A recording played above the chamber. It was grainy, burned with static, but the voices were clear. The last words of Warlord Shiroth echoed through the room. They are not prey. The sound made the chamber fall silent. Even the most arrogant warlords shifted uneasily, their eyes flicking toward the human delegation that had just entered. At the center of them all walked Commander Elena Ward, captain of the Resolute. Her uniform bore scars as much as medals. Her stride was steady, her jaw tight, her eyes sharp with that same unyielding fire the galaxy had seen on the battlefield. Aliens had once laughed at humans. Now, for the first time, the laughter was gone. And in the heavy silence, one question spread like a storm. Who hunts who? The chamber erupted in argument after the recording ended. The humans are a disease, hissed a Veynar delegate. His scales bristling with fury, must be purged before they spread. Counselor of the Valerian Confederacy, tall and slender with glass-like skin, raised her voice. Purged? You mean slaughtered? As you tried on Illyria? We saw how. That ended. Humanity did what none of us dared. They bled for another species, and they won. The chamber roared with conflicting cries. Some shouted for alliance, some for extermination, some for caution. Ward said nothing. She stood in silence, her hands behind her back, her eyes sweeping the room like searchlights. Her crew sat behind her, silent as stone, their faces hard but calm. They were soldiers, but tonight they were symbols. The council chair. An ancient being of living crystal, named Archon Varel, raised a hand. The chamber quieted, though tensions still throbbed like a wound. The matter before us is clear, Varel said, his voice like stone grinding on stone. Are humans prey, or are they predators? And if they are predators, what do we do? Council turned to Ward. 1,000 eyes on her, 1,000 claws, tendrils and hands tightening on armrests. Ward stepped forward, her boots echoing on the polished floor. She did not bow. She did not smile. She spoke in simple words, each one, like a hammer. You call us prey. You call yourselves hunters, but who walks away from your traps? Who stands when the storm takes your fleets? Who dares to fight the swarm on the ground you call death? Her voice cut through the silence. My people did not ask for this war. But when you hunt us, we will hunt you. We will not run. We will not beg. We will fight, and we will win. The Illyrian envoy rose, her silver eyes shining with tears. She speaks truth. We saw the humans stand where none of us could. They gave their blood for us. They fight like predators, yes, but they protect like kin. They are not conquerors. They are guardians. The chamber filled with whispers again. Guardians. Predators. Prey. Which were they? Not all were convinced. The Zell Dominion's warlord speaker, a massive creature with jaws like a steel trap, snarled. Guardians. Do you not see? Today they defend you. Tomorrow they will command you. They will turn their knives on us all. Better to end them now, while we can. His voice carried weight. Many nodded. The memory of burning fleets and shattered hulls was too fresh. The idea of humans as allies was too dangerous. Ward listened in silence. She did not argue. She let them talk. Let their fear grow heavy in their throats. When the shouting reached its height, Ward finally spoke again. You call us dangerous? You are right. We are dangerous. We were made dangerous by the world that tried to kill us every day. Poison seas, burning skies, predators that hunted us in the dark. We learned to fight not for conquest, but for survival. We learned to protect each other. We learned to adapt faster than death itself. She paused, her voice soft but sharp. If you think that makes us dangerous, then ask yourself this. Dangerous to whom? As the council argued, in the shadows of the chamber, other whispers stirred. Spies traded data. Secret messages passed from claw to hand to tendril. Not all. The empires wanted to hear humans. Some wanted their silence back. Permanent silence. Plans formed to cut down Ward, to destroy the Resolute, to make the galaxy forget the stories before they grew too loud. Commander Jacob Reed, still stationed on Illyria with his squad, intercepted fragments of these whispers through hacked channels. His screen glowed faintly in the ruins of the Illyrian capital. Sarah, he said through the coms, his voice tight with warning. They are planning something, not just talk. Assassins. Plots. They want you gone before you can speak again. Ward heard his voice in her earpiece as the council chamber roared around her. She did not flinch. Then we hunt the hunters again, she whispered, just as Ward prepared to sign a treaty with the Illyrians in front of the whole council. The chamber lights flickered. Shadow passed across the transparent walls of the Star Dome. Delegates froze. Guards raised weapons. Is it the humans? Someone hissed. The lights went black. In the darkness, a scream tore through the chamber. An alien delegate fell, a knife in his chest. Not a plasma blade, not a beam weapon. It's a knife of human steel, simple and ancient. The light snapped back on. The knife gleamed in the alien's chest. Every eye turned to the humans. Ward did not move. Her face was carved from stone. That is not ours, she said, its voice calm but cold. But doubt was already spreading. Ward's security team moved silently through the crowd. They wore plain uniforms, no weapons in sight, but their eyes were sharp. Scanning, one of them whispered in her ear, "Assassin is not human. Claws too long, movement too quick." Ward nodded. She had already guessed. This was not human work. This was something else. Something older. But the council did not care. Fear had already chosen its story. "The humans strike us in our own chamber," a delegate shouted. "They cannot be allowed to live," another roared. Ward raised her hand. The chamber grew quiet again. "If a human wished you dead," she said, her voice sharp as glass, "you would not have seen the knife." The words cut deeper than any weapon. Some delegates looked away. Others clenched their fists in rage. The council chair, Archon Veril, struck the floor with his staff. Cracks of light spread across the black stone. "The question remains," Veril said. "Are humans prey or predators? They threat or salvation?" The chamber split in two. Half the delegates stood with the Veynar and the Zell, calling for war. The other half stood with the Illyrians, calling for alliance. For the first time in millennia, the council was broken. Ward stood in the center of it all, silent.
Ow.
She knew this was only the beginning. As the chamber roared with shouts of war and peace, the comes on the Resolute lit up again. Faint signal, not from any empire, not from any world they knew. Ward touched the console. Voice came, cold and ancient, like stone grinding on stone. "You call yourselves hunters? You call yourselves prey. You are neither. You are something new. Something we have not tasted. We are coming." The chamber froze. Every species turned, hearing the same words echo through their own channels, their own ships, their own minds. For the first time, the galaxy was united not in arrogance, not in laughter, but in fear. And in that silence, one thought burned brighter than the stars themselves. Who hunts who? The stars went out. One by one, suns across the rim of the galaxy flickered, dimmed, and vanished as if an unseen hand had snuffed their light. Entire sectors plunged into darkness, their worlds left shivering under skies of black. Refugee ships filled the void, carrying billions who whispered in fear of something too vast to name. It was not the Veynar this time. It was not the swarm. It was something older. Across encrypted channels, an ancient voice spoke in every tongue at once. It was not sound, but vibration, not speech, but pressure in the bones. We have hunted for longer than your stars have burned. We are the first. We are the last. We are coming. On the bridge of the Resolute commander, Elena Ward stood frozen, eyes locked on the view screen. Image of the dying suns burned in her mind. She knew what this meant. The rumors had been true. The shadow in the void was not myth. For 1,000 years the galaxy had called humans prey. For a few months they had whispered that humans were predators. Now something else asked the question that none dared to answer. Who hunts who? The first shape appeared from the void near the dying star of Elena. It was not metal. It was not. Machina was alive. A ship the size of a moon slid into real space. Its surface was not armor, but living tissue pulel, translucent, pulsing with veins of blue fire. Its hull flexed as if it were breathing. Whole fleets of smaller organisms swarmed around it like sharks circling a wounded whale. Reading mass signatures, reported Lieutenant Raffi, his voice sharp. Each one of those things has the density of a small planet. And that monster in the center, he paused, it's feeding on the star itself. Ward's eyes narrowed. They eat suns. The Illyrian survivors on the comes wept. The shade, one of them whispered. We prayed it was only legend. Ward stood at the strategy table. Her officers watched her in silence. We cannot fight this alone, she said. Even the Resolute cannot face a creature that feeds on stars. But we have allies now. We have something the ancients never learned, which is Raffi unity, Ward said simply. Predators hunt alone. Survivors hunt together. She opened a secure channel to Admiral Varian. His scarred face appeared in the holocom as ever. Admiral, she said, the shade is real. It is here. Varian's eyes narrowed. He looked beyond her at the glowing form of the living warship feeding on the star. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he spoke. Then we build the bulwark. The call went out across the galaxy. To the Valyrian Confederacy, to the battered fleets of the Illyrians. Even to the rivals who once mocked humans as prey. If the shade consumes us one by one, Ward said, we are all finished. But if we stand together, if we fight as one, then we will show the stars that we not they decide who survives. At first, many resisted. The Veynar snarled, still burning from their defeat. The Zell questioned whether humans could be trusted. The council fractured, voices rising in anger. But then came the footed ships melting in the storm, Shiroths. Last scream, Illyrian survivors standing beside human soldiers in the ruins of their cities. The galaxy could not ignore the proof. One by one, fleets moved. First, a dozen Valian warbirds. Then the scarred survivors of the Illyrian Guard. Then even the cautious Roll enclaves sent their carriers. The bulwark began to form. The shade moved. Like a storm across the stars, its main body pulsed, drinking light from suns. Around it swirled thousands of smaller living warships. Their bodies slick with black fire, their movements too fast for sensors to track. They did not speak. They only hunted. The first Allied fleet to meet them was torn apart in minutes. Hundreds. Oh, ships blinked out. Whole worlds fell silent. On the Resolute, Ward stood at the viewing deck, listening to the broken transmissions. They are not ships, Raffi whispered. They are mouths. They are teeth. Ward said nothing. Her eyes stayed on the star map. She traced lines with her finger. Then we show them what human teeth look like. At the edge of Dominion space, fleets gathered. The Valyrian warbirds, hung like shards of crystal. The Raoul carriers floated heavy and dark. Even ships of smaller empires, who once spat at humans, now aligned their bows with the Resolute. In the great chamber of coordination, Admiral Veynar addressed them all. His voice was calm, his eyes sharp. The shade will come for us. It will not stop. It does not parley. It does not rest. It only hunts. If we stand alone, we are prey. If we stand together, we are predators. He paused. And humanity was born for this fight. We are not like you. We are not fragile. We are not slow. We were forged in storms. Tonight, you will see what that means. Ward stood at his side, silent but fierce. The alien delegates who had once laughed at her now watched her like a weapon. The shade came. Its living warship was larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen, blotting out the stars. Its swarm poured forward, a tidal wave of black fire and claws. The Allied fleets opened fire. Plasma lances, rail cannons, missiles light filled the void. The swarm screamed and rushed through it, their bodies burning but not stopping. They tore into the first line of ships, ripping metal apart, dragging crews into the void. On the Resolute, alarms shrieked, panels exploded, smoke filled the air. Shields at 50%, O'Reilly shouted. Keep them steady, Ward. Ordered. We need every second. Reed's voice came from the surface of Illyria. We've got the last of the needlegrass loaded, ready for deployment. Ward nodded. Then let's end the hunt. The plan was madness. Have dared it. The Resolute and its allies would drive the shade into the heart of the dying star, just as they had done with the Veynar fleet. But this time the prey was far stronger, far older. Ward's voice rang across the Allied channels. Listen well. We cannot outrun them. We cannot outgun them, but we can outthink them. The shade feeds on stars, but even predators choke when they swallow poison. The Elysian needlegrass spores, once a weapon of survival on Illyria, were packed into warheads, bombs, and canisters. If they could be delivered into the shade's living body, the creature would turn its hunger against itself. The Resolute led the charge. It darted through the storm, its engines screaming. Behind it, Valerian warbirds danced like shards of light. Raoul carriers hurled waves of fighters. Illyrian frigates burned their last fuel to stay in formation. The shade opened its man. Impossible black wounds that seemed to drink the stars themselves. Swarms screamed and surged forward, claws tearing at metal. Ward stood at the center of her bridge, calm as stone. Her crew looked to her. She raised her hand. Now, she said, feed the beast. Hundreds of warheads launched. They did not aim for weak points. They aimed for the mouth. The canisters burst inside the living ship, spraying glowing spores. Into its lungs? For a moment, nothing happened. Then the shade screamed. The sound was not heard, but felt. It rattled bones. It shook stars. The entire galaxy froze as the great predator writhed in agony. Its body glowed green from within, the spores feeding on its energy, turning its hunger into poison. The battle raged around them. The swarm fell apart as the link to their master faltered. Fighters collided, drones tore into them, plasma blasts ripped through weakened flesh. On the flagship, Ward gave orders like a surgeon. Hold formation. Keep the pressure steady. Drive it down. The Resolute fired volley after volley. The crew worked through smoke and fire, faces lit by the glow of burning ships below. On Illyria, Reed and his squad watched the sky burn. The living warship thrashed against the dying star, its pale body cracking with green fire. Torres whispered, "It's choking on the grass." Reed nodded. "Good. Let it choke." The shade convulsed. Its massive body split along glowing lines. Blue fire burst outward, then folded inward again. The creature screamed one last time, a sound that shook every heart in the galaxy. Then the light went out, the swarm went silent, the great predator was gone. For a moment, there was only silence. Then the Allied fleets began to cheer. Aliens who had never trusted each other embraced. The Illyrians wept openly. The Valerians sang in voices, like crystal bells. The Raoul bellowed in deep, rumbling tones. And at the center of it all, the Resolute floated, scarred but unbroken. Humanity had led the hunt. Humanity had turned the storm into a weapon. Humanity had shown the galaxy what true predators looked like. But Ward did not cheer. She stood at the viewport, staring at the place where the shade had died. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned. Raffi stepped closer. "We did it. We killed the predator." Ward shook her head slowly. "We killed one, but the voice said we are being watched. If there was one, there will be more." Her words silenced. "The bridge," O'Reilly muttered. "If there are more, how many?" Ward did not answer. She only looked at the dark beyond the stars, where new whispers stirred. Across the galaxy, the story spread again. Humans had led the final stand at Illyria. They had fed a star to a predator. They had turned prey into hunters. On a distant world, a child asked her elder grandfather, "Who hunts who now?" The old alien did not answer. He only stared at the night sky, where one more star had gone dark. And in that silence, the ancient voice returned. It was not one voice now. It was many. Countless. "We are coming. We are many. And we will see. If your hunt lasts." Elena Ward closed her eyes and whispered to the stars, her voice steady and fierce. "We will be waiting." The Resolute turned slowly, its scarred hull glowing in the starlight, its crew silent but unbroken. Around it, the Allied fleets gathered, preparing for what was to come. The galaxy was no longer laughing. The galaxy was no longer mocking. The galaxy was holding its breath, and in every corner of the stars, the same question thundered louder than ever. Who hunts who? "Don't get poetic," her navigator muttered, but he smiled when he said it. "Poetry is for the living," she said. "We intend to stay in the set." On eavesdrop, the quiet text stiffened. "Tone," she breathed. "Liege's played." Cade's eyes flicked to the sideboard, the throne root, the private band from the Dreth, High War Thront. For 3 precious seconds, its timekeeping slipped. Orders went out a hair early. Replies came back a hair late. In an empire that had always believed itself a metronome, the song wavered. On the flagship, Varg Tell felt it like a grit of sand in a tooth. He hissed. "Lock the private band to shipboard clocks," he snapped. "Already trying the comes." The officer said, fingers frantic. The grit remained. "Who taught them this?" Varg asked the air. There was no answer. The human fleet did not go forward. It spread. It found the old lines where orbitals had once guarded Earth and filled the gaps. With bodies, it was not a phalanx. It was a net woven from wounded threads. It held. Admiral Vance said, voice tight. "Message from Commander Stone." Cade nodded. "Put her through." Alara Stone's face was pale and steady on the holla, the Council's stone behind her. The star's blue light on her hair. "Jonas," she said, dropping rank like a coat between friends for the space of one word. "The Council is moving. Not enough. Enough to matter. Aid is in flight. Allies are waking." Cade let out a breath he had not known he was holding, and you, Alara, looked past him as if she were seeing the same sky. "I can't hold this hall much longer with words," she said. "They want rules. The Dreth bring fire. I have an idea." "I want to take the Vanguard where stories are born," Alara said softly. "To their home." "Not to conquer," Cade said, reading the line in her eyes. "To break a symbol," she said. "To show the galaxy that fear can be set on fire." Cade considered how many ships he could spare, and found that numbers did not hold the answer. Sometimes war was logistics. Sometimes it was theater. Sometimes the right curtain dropping at the right moment moved more steel than a dozen carriers. "Take what you need," said. "Bring everyone home." Elar's mouth twitched. "We'll bring them home, or bring them honor." The channel closed. Vance stared at Cade. "We're striking the Dreth capital." "We're striking the idea of it," Cade said. "We're letting every camera watch." They jumped at dawn over a black world with rings like a crown. The Dreth capital hung above a continent-sized citadel, a lattice of docks and towers. And banners, the black sun eating the white world. A fleet that could drown systems encircled it. The sky was full of drills and parades. Fear had homed here for generations. The vanguard arrived in a whisper. 20 lean holes slid out of folds. In light and held station like the points of a drawn shape. No volleys, no challenge. The first message was not a beam. It was a broadcast. Across the Empire. On every channel the throne could not close fast enough. A simple image appeared. The capital's crown. And in front of it, a small human ship rolling in slow salute, the old white line across a blue circle. On its flank, the second message was a voice. "This is Commander Alara Stone of Earth," she said, calm as a steady hand. "We are not here to occupy your capital. We are here to put a match to your fear." On the docks, Dreth soldiers raised weapons and lowered them again, uncertain. On the parade yards, cadres broke formation and looked up. In apartments where officers' families watched the sky and never asked questions, questions woke like children. The first gun fired. It was a single, angry line from a battery near the crown's base. Sable slid, and the line kissed vacuum. The human ship did not. "Answer," Alara's voice carried. "We came to show you a thing you forgot," she said. "We came to show your empire that empires can be embarrassed." And the hum began. It was not loud, it was not a siren. It was the sound of 1,000 seed nodes waking inside timing racks and door logic and parade scheduling. For 3 minutes on the Dreth capital, nothing terrible happened. Everything small did. Doors refused to open for senior officers and slid ajar for cooks. Parade lights lit the wrong yards. Great statue at the crown's mouth turned its head 30 degrees and looked away from the banner. Banners trembled and fell, one by one, as if a wind had passed through a sealed hall. The black suncloths hit the ground and lay there like dead birds. Cameras watched. The Empire watched itself stall. The galaxy watched the Empire see itself stall. On a balcony, high above, a being older than Varg, Tel stepped into the light. His armor was not field black, but throne black, trimmed in pale bone. His eyes were very calm. He had been the High War Emperor for 100 years. He had not felt surprise in 90 of them. He felt it now. "Who," he said softly, not to aides or guards, but to the day itself, "has brought amateurs into my house." Lara's ships did nothing but hold position, paint their silhouettes across every lens, and let the little sabotage turn the Empire's face hot. "Enough," the Emperor said, and his voice went through 1,000 channels that had never stuttered before. This time it wobbled. The wobble made him angrier than the sabotage itself. He lifted one hand. "Bring me Earth." On the flagship high above the blue world far away, General Vargtel straightened, his slate lit with a new header he had hoped. Never to see except his ritual. "Total erasure directive, Terra." "Every hull," the Emperor's voice said. "Every blade, every oath. Go." The throne band steadied under a dozen hasty patches. The Empire remembered the part of its song that was only volume. The capital's delays smoothed. Banners were raised again. The crown glared. The vanguard still hung like quiet knives. It could not kill a world with symbols. Symbols could still kill. Alara closed her eyes for a heartbeat and saw the road her choice had opened. She spoke one last time, for the cameras, the kitchens and docks and balcony rooms. "You have seen that your fear can trip," she said. "Now you must choose whether to keep carrying it." Then the vanguard turned and jumped, not chased they. Could not be caught by a shame that did not know how to run. Back in Sol, the board went red in a way it had not yet been read. Vectors from 100 systems bent toward one small sun. The Dreth had emptied fortresses and pulled teeth out of other mouths. The sky itself seemed to lean. Vance swallowed. "All of them." Cade nodded. His face was very still. "All of them." In the council ring, the speaker gripped his staff until the silver dented. You must choose," the Aurea King said, and his stone voice had no tremor now. "We chose long ago to live small. Today, I choose to stand tall once." Emeries. Elders tried to hush her. She did not sit. "We will sing Paths to Sol," she said. "We will sing them fast." The Lix emissary ran a long tongue over dry lips. Our syndics have never seen a bill this large, he said, shaking. We will pay it. Taeon looked up with everyone else. On Luna, Morrow's coils glowed a sick pale. We can give you one more, he whispered, as if to a friend about to. Do something brave and stupid. Cade put a hand on the rail and felt the bone in it. Then that is what we will take. He opened the fleet-wide channel. The voice that went out was not loud. It was clear. Humans, he said, and friends, who have remembered how to be more than afraid. They are coming with everything. We will meet them with everything we are. If any of you are looking for orders, I have only one. He looked at the blue world on the main screen until his eyes burned. Stand. In the ruins above Mars, Sable and Low Sun and Eavesdrop turned, their black holes to face the red tide. In the tunnels under Luna, engineers bled heat and kept their hands moving. In kitchens and orbitals and old halls, species who had bow-tied shoes and checked straps and told small truths to children. Above the Dref capital, Throne looked at a hall that had almost laughed at it and swore never to blush again. Sky over Earth darkened with incoming night. The night over Earth cracked open. It began with a glow at the edge of the sky, slow blooming red that drowned out the stars. People stepped onto rooftops and into empty streets, staring upward with faces pale in the glow. They had seen the broadcast from the council chamber. They had heard Commander Alara Stone's defiant words. They had watched Captain Jack Hartman fly straight into death with a grin on his face. Now the promise of fire hung above them. The Dreth fleet had formed into a ring. A burning crown that circled Earth, 1,000 guns angled downward each, one humming with a charge that could tear the crust from the planet. The sound of sirens cut across every city. In bunkers, families clutched each other. In temples and churches and mosques, voices prayed. On military stations, soldiers strapped into consoles with hands that shook but did not leave their posts. And then, as the glow grew brighter, questions spread through every home, every hall, every street. Would humanity finally bow, or would they burn? The first 5 minutes were nothing but suspense in the skies above Earth. The Dreth weapons lit up like a necklace of suns. In New Delhi, the night became day. In Rio de Janeiro, shadows stretched across beaches. In Moscow, the snow turned pink. The people of Earth could not see the humans fighting in the void, Intrepid's broken fighters. The Ghost Division moving through ducts. The lunar Aegis screaming in its cavern, but they could feel it. Children asked their parents if the humans in space would win. Parents gave no answer, only held them tighter. Soldiers in orbit whispered to one another, "We have 2 minutes." Just 2. Inside Luna Base, the great cannon roared. The coils glowed white-hot, trembling, trembling, trembling. Chief Engineer Morrow had torn open his own suit to let sweat evaporate faster. His hands bled where wires had burned them. He never stopped. 80%, he shouted. 90. The floor shook with each Dreth blast. Dust rained down. Pipes split and steam hissed across the deck. Admiral Jonas Cade gripped the rail until his knuckles went white. He could feel the mountain's bones groan, could feel the seconds slipping away. "Hold," he said, voice steady. "Just hold." Shh. Above, the Intrepid squadron was almost gone. One by one, ships had fallen. Plasma tore through hulls. Missiles lit the void. The Dreth fought with rage now, not order. Rage is wide. Rage is blind. Sometimes that saved the humans. Sometimes it killed them faster. Jack Hartman's fighter was coughing smoke. Warning lights flashed red across his cockpit. His fuel gauge dipped to nothing. "Captain," came a voice thin and ragged. It was Lieutenant Arya Vale, the last pilot flying beside him. "We're out of time." Jack's grin was bloodied but fierce. "Then we take their eyes." Pulled his fighter into a dive. The Dreth guns followed, bright lines stabbing downward. Jack rolled, dodged, dove again. His fighter shook. Armor peeled. But he was close now, close to the flagship's flank, where its massive gun arrays glowed. He toggled his last command. A dozen drones detached from his crippled fighter. They did not fire. They did not fight. They scattered into the Dreth. Formation, each one carrying a seed node, each one singing a different tone. The Dreth guns faltered. 2 ships fired at once, and their beams crossed, tearing through their own ranks. Another fired early and struck empty night. "Got you," Jack whispered. Then the flagship turned every gun it had on him. The Intrepid disappeared in white fire. In the belly of the Dreth relay, Fala Quinn and her team reached the last chamber. They had already planted 3 seeds. This one was different. This one was heavier. The relay's core pulsed with light. Wires ran like veins through crystal. Hala pulled a black device from her pack. It was small. It hummed like a heart. "This is the last one?" she whispered. "Will it kill them?" Evo asked. His voice was soft. "No," Hala said. "Not yet. It will only show them." She slid the device into a seam. It sank without a sound. The hum grew louder. On Eavesdrop's board, the quiet tech saw the pattern bloom. It was not one voice now. It was many. It was not one song. It was a choir. The Dreth net filled with echoes of itself, repeating, twisting, reflecting. Orders went out and came back, changed. Ships turned where they were not told to turn. Cruisers opened fire on their own escorts, thinking them ghosts. Whole lines collided as maps disagreed on what was real. The council gasped. Delegates leaned forward, eyes wide. They were watching. "A god stumble," Murav of the Isla Rai whispered. "The chain is broken." The Auric king rumbled. "The crown is cracked." On the Dreth throne world, the emperor himself watched as feeds stuttered and flickered. For the first time in a century, his voice failed to command cleanly. His orders came back warped. His ships fought each other in the dark. His eyes narrowed. He rose from his throne, bone-trimmed armor glowing like a furnace. "Find me the human," he said softly. "The one who will not kneel. Bring me her bones." But even as he spoke, the feed shifted. Elara Stone stood in the council chamber. Her face was pale but steady. Her voice was calm but sharp. "You call us prey," she said. "You call yourselves. Gods, look at your fleet. Look at your crown. Do gods bleed? Do gods lose their grip on their own chains?" The delegates stirred. Some whispered, nodded. Some shouted. Varg Tell slammed his fist into the console of the flagship. The screen flickered. His officers scrambled. His claws dug deeper into his palms. "They are only human," he growled. "They cannot break us." But in the void, another. Dreth's ship went dark. Then another. Then 3 more. The crown was breaking. Inside Luna Base, the air was fire. Admiral Morrow screamed, "The coils are at 100. But if we fire again, the chamber will collapse. The mountain will. Go with us." Cade's eyes did not move from the board. The red icons were close now, so close he could feel their fire in his teeth. "Then we go with them," he said. The words fell like iron. No one argued. "Target the flagship," Cade said, center mass straight through the throne. Vance's hands shook as she keyed in coordinates. The targeting reticle locked. The Dreth flagship's guns glowed brighter and brighter, ready to erase a planet. "Ready?" Morrow said. His voice broke. "Admiral, this will be the last shot." "Then let it be the one they remember," Cade said. The cannon screamed. The mountain shook. The beam of white fire roared across the void, a line of day that cut through night. On. The flagship, Varg Tell, had time to see it. He raised his claw. Shields the beam struck. The Dreth flagship was not a ship. It was a moving city, a cathedral of war. Its armor was thicker than mountains. Its shields could drink suns. It was supposed to be untouchable. The beam did not care. It cut through shield, through armor, through decks and halls and throats and oaths. It cored the flagship like a fruit. Fire spilled out in rivers. Towers fell. Engines screamed once, then were silent. The council feed went white, then black. When it cleared, the flagship was gone. Only drifting shards remained, glowing like dying stars. The Dreth fleet froze. 1,000 ships hung in the dark. For the first time in their history, they had no head, no throne, no chain. On Luna, the mountain cracked. Rock fell from the ceiling. Air hissed. The lunar aegis sagged. The coils glowed too bright. They split. Fire rushed through the chamber. "Evacuate," Morrow shouted, but his voice was lost in the roar. Cade stood at the rail until it shook in his grip. He looked at the blue world on the screen. He saw oceans. He saw cities. He saw children laughing. He saw Jack Hartman's grin. "Humans don't kneel," he whispered. Then the mountain lit from within, and the feed went dark. Silence spread across the galaxy. In the council chamber, no one spoke. Delegates stared at the empty space where the flagship had been. The Dreth officers on the floor were pale, their claws trembling. For the first time in living memory, the conquerors had no voice from the throne. Elara Stone stood alone in the center of the hall. The silence pressed down, heavy as stone. She did not move. She did not kneel. At last the Aurea King stood. He raised his cracked arms high. "The humans have stood where we would not," he said. His stone voice carried through the hall. "The chain is broken. The throne is ash. The age of kneeling is over." Murmurs rose, then cheers, then songs. The Ilari began to sing, their voices clear, crystalline, filling the dome. The Lix emissary raised his long hands, tears running down his scaled cheeks. The Dreth officers tried to shout, their words were drowned by voices that had once been silent, but in the void above Earth, there was no cheering. The lunar aegis was gone, buried under its own mountain. The Intrepid was gone, nothing but drifting fragments. Half the human fleet was gone, their wreckage falling like meteors through the sky. Only a handful of ships remained. Sable, Low Sun, Eavesdrop, a few destroyers with smoking holes. A handful of fighters. They floated in the dark, engines dim. Weapons empty. The Dreth fleet still numbered hundreds. Their guns still glowed. The rage was not gone, Admiral Vance whispered. Her face was pale, her hands shaking. "We can't fight them all." "No," Cade said. His voice was soft, calm. "We can't." "Then what do we do?" Cade looked at the screen. He saw the Dreth ships, vast and black. He saw the blue world below, trembling in the firelight. He thought of Elara standing in the council hall. He thought of Jack, grinning through smoke. He thought of the words that had carried farther than any beam. He pressed a control. The fleet-wide channel opened. His voice carried to every human ship, every council feed, every listening world, friends. He said, "The Dreth are coming. They will not stop. They will not forgive. They will not forget. But listen to me." His voice was calm, steady. "Cold as stone, we do not kneel. Not on Mars, not on Luna, not here, not ever. If they want our world, they will pay for it in blood and fire. And when they come, we will stand." The last human ships roared their answer, "Stand." In the council hall, Mary stood on her glass legs and sang the word. The Aurea King slammed his stone fists on the bench in rhythm. The Lix emissary lifted his hands high. In the void, the Dreth crown finally closed. 100 ships lit there. Guns. 100 suns burned in the sky above Earth. On Luna, the mountain groaned and cracked as the dead cannon cooled. The base shook with falling stone. Engineers screamed. On the eavesdrop, the quiet tech stared at her board. Numbers danced, blurred, split. The ghost choir was still singing, but the Dreth were patching faster, harder. The song would not hold them forever. On the Dreth throne world, the Emperor's calm voice returned to the net. "Advance," he said, "burn." The 1,000 ships moved as one again. The red tide surged forward. The sky over Earth became fire, and in the council chamber, watching through the great dome, the galaxy whispered a question it had not dared ask in centuries. Could humanity truly stand alone? The glow from the Dreth guns grew brighter. Void shook. The first beams began to fall. The day of fire had come.